Hello, everyone. What up, my ho ho ho's? Merry Dripmas, and welcome to our Christmas special.
Oh
Cheers.
no.
That's great.
Oh man.
Somebody has decked the halls for Christmas.
All of them.
Oh man.
Well, thank you all for those of you who are here and viewing us, especially to our patrons. We'll be viewing this early, and to everybody else, welcome to
Yes.
our holiday special. Why don't you go ahead and introduce us all there,
I'll
Adam?
take it. I'll take it.
Or
Dibs.
Okay,
Dibs.
Alan,
Alright.
go for it.
Dibs.
I'm Alan. I'm the dude behind the screens. I show up every once in a while when one of these guys are sick or not able to make it. To my right is Adam, and to my left is Alex. They are the normal hosts, and yeah, welcome to the 800s Christmas special.
Yeah, welcome. We're just gonna do a couple of Q&As, talk about some of our favorites, some of our least favorites from the last year, and we're gonna do a little gift exchange between the three of us. Got each other gifts, so that should be fun. And yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the books from 2021. All the books we read for the show. We're going to talk about our top three, our bottom three, and any honorable mentions that anybody has, and then wherever the conversation takes us from there. So, yeah.
Shall we dive right in?
Well, I mean, our usual disclaimer, of course. This is, despite being the holiday special, we do still gear towards adults, and we'll probably have a thing or two to say that might be untoward for the holiday season, but we're going to say it anyway. And, as always, like, we're doing this because we want to be a part of our creating a fun and welcoming atmosphere here at DM's table, and one where nobody feels judged or anything. So while there are no official participants in chat, just a gentle reminder to be nice or fuck off.
Yes.
La la
Wouldn't
la
be
la
a show
la
without
la
it.
la. Fuck off.
Good one there, Adam.
Oh,
All
man.
right, why don't we go back to our normal backgrounds? I'm enjoying this cozy atmosphere, but I think we're going to do a present before we get
Yes.
started.
Yes. So before the first question, which is going to be, what are your top three books that we read this season? I want you guys to open my gifts.
What lovely wrapping paper! You have such good taste.
Mine was actually wrapped by Alan.
Yes. You can tell in difference of quality. Mine is much less.
I like the
don't know,
homemade
it's
wrapping
cloudy.
paper tag.
I think the only thing mine
See that?
has that one doesn't is like bow.
Yeah, the bow sets it off. We don't do bows at my house. Not until actual
Okay.
Christmas.
All right, Alex, rip it open.
All right, be careful with them.
Rip it
Well,
open, Joe.
Be
Careful
careful
with
with
it.
Yeah. Open yours too, Adam. It's the same gift.
Yeah. I totally
So,
forgot
see, I
that
ripped
there's
mine.
like packaging tape that I have to get through
Oh,
right now.
Oh no.
Hold
All
on.
right, so there's a box trick. If you put your fingers on either side of the tape and push in on the box, you can pinch the
Yeah,
tape.
that doesn't work on this one. I had to do that like back when I was working
Oh, yeah.
food service.
Yep.
But this is taped all the way to the corners
Who
because
did
some
that?
madman
Who did that? It's almost like I
thought things
shipped
had to
it.
be secure.
I used a wine bottle opener to cut mine open.
All right, hold, Adam, hold.
Adam was tired of listening to me whine about it. So, are you holding off until I get mine done? Because it might be a minute. I swear I'm going as fast as I can. This is the worst unboxing ever. And it's not because of what's in it, it's because of the unboxer.
Adam's got diamond hands. All right.
Yeah, that's right. I still own Sheeb.
All right. Let's see it. There's stuff inside of it, too.
Oh.
Ooh. Okay.
Got a
All right.
mug.
Yes.
So.
So, the mug fits a can inside of it.
Oh, nice.
And it is not food safe, and it is not watertight. So do not, put liquids in there and drink from it. But you can put a yeah. It's specifically designed as a can holder, and it is like exactly the tolerance. So I got this from the internet, and I probably should have plugged the person.
Actually, a bottle fits with only minimal tilting.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's pretty decently well.
Good.
Let's test them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit of a project if you want it to be. You can sand, prime, and paint it so that it looks like a tavern mug. Yeah. And
you can see Two Hearted above it too. It's perfect.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Christmas ale kind of sinks below.
That's cool. Cool, Alex. Thank you. Or Alan, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry.
You're
welcome for the idea.
And then the other one is a bookmark, and then a page holder. And it's got your classic be nice or fuck off.
Oh man, this is awesome. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
That was when you.
I'll drink out of that when I'm done drinking out of the thing that's already kind of in my cup.
When you said 3D print, I was hoping you'd give us some book stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no. I honestly, because I've been physically reading so many of these books, that thumb holder has been so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got an early copy, but having another because I've unfortunately almost misplaced the other one a few times. Well, it's a lot
They're
of
small.
like I'll be reading it like in bed at night and fall asleep with it on my thumb, and I'll wake up in the morning like. Hold on, got to go to my little present snack pouch. It's honestly supposed to be for drinks, but now that I have the other drink holder, like forget that. I got me some flavor blasted goldfish.
All right. So, your top 3 books of this year. What? Let's start with number 3. What was your guys' third favorite book this year?
Oh, let's see here. I kind of just had like a general top 3, and I'm kind of trying to decide which one.
I'll start. I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Rhythmatist was my third favorite. I really enjoyed the magic system. It came in third because it was, in my opinion, the weaker of the top 3. Maybe because it was a YA novel, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was super original, in my opinion.
All right. I think my third favorite, Rhythmatist just missed my, I'll mention it later.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my third favorite was, this is tough because there's number 1 and then there's 2 and 3.
That's how numbers work.
But I think number 3 for me was Blacksmith's Son.
Ooh, good one. Yeah.
I think for that one, I just really enjoyed the characters and like technically speaking, based on our parameters, this is even though we did some other stuff in 2020, we're only doing 2021 books.
Mm-hmm.
So like that significantly shifted the books that I was pulling from. But this one came closest to capturing the essence of the one that I had to drop from my list,
Okay.
which was Name of the Wind.
Yeah. Yep.
It had that same kind of essence. I liked the characters. It was a fun read.
It was an easy
And
read too. Like it
yeah,
just
well, that's what made it fun.
breezed.
Is it was a cool magic system, but it was a simple read while having enough to keep my mind churning about the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I just it was an enjoyable read all around for me.
Adam?
Cool. I'm gonna go with Foundry side.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the magic. The story flowed really well. As soon as I finished it, I was super excited to start the second one. So that's always a good indication that a book was well received is when you reach for book 2. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. What was number 2 for you guys?
Hey, I'll start off. We'll go in reverse order.
Okay.
All right.
Book 2 for me was The Blacksmith, son. Oh yeah, yeah. I love that book series. I've read it multiple times. There's something about the simplicity that is just so easy to go back to time and time again. And yeah, I don't really have any gripes about it. It's not like a super awesome, epic, incredible tale, but it's a very comfortable tale, and it is really well written.
It's like a daily driver almost, it sounds like it's just enjoyable to keep reading like over and over again. That makes sense. I could totally see that. Alex?
All right. So my number 2 is actually A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness.
Ooh.
I loved how like just purely emotionally powerful that story was. And it's a rough read if you connect with it as deeply as many people do, but there's kind of an emotional catharsis to going through that journey with the main character that for such a short story as it is, I find incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. That one didn't make my list, but that certainly was a good one. My number 2 was Lore. I really really enjoyed Lore. It was I don't know, it just kind of scratched that Greek fantasy itch. What is it, Magnus or Percy Jackson or whatever? It was kind of in that vein, but I don't know. It felt real. I don't know. I don't know a good way to really explain what sets that book apart, but something does. It just pops.
Hey, when something scratches that itch, man, like you don't have to explain it. It's just the book you wanted to read, and it just hit just right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not just the book; it's when you read it and like the circumstance of it.
Yeah.
That's why revisiting. That's why people wonder why others revisit books, and sometimes it's to pick up details, but sometimes it's just to get a fresh read. Can be a whole different perspective depending on where you're at when you read it, both personally and physically.
Yeah. Well, and it was so visceral too. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
visceral and just well described, and they did a really good job with the I don't know how the powers of the gods worked and stuff like that. I enjoyed it. So. Alex, what is your number 1?
My number 1 was Alice.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
It was the book I didn't know that I needed to read.
Ooh, that's a good. After we're done with our number 1s, I wanna do that. I wanna see what
It was
that
just
is
the one
for.
that just like everything else kind of fits what we do, but that was the book that as I was reading it, I was like, holy hell, like it's not necessarily the best written of all of them or has the strongest characters. It's kind of in the similar vein of Settling That Itch, but it was a itch I didn't even know I had until I read it, because I've read the original like Adventures of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, and it just reshaped a story that I enjoyed in a way that I enjoyed it more, but it also made me uncomfortable, which again, I've already noted that like when books make me feel shit, especially stuff that like is particularly powerful without, while not losing me in the emotionality of it. Like, it's no shock value. It's a part of the story, and it just fit like a puzzle piece, and kind of like the dark matter to the matter of the universe type of thing. Like I didn't know it was there, but like once I got that right view, and I was like, oh shit, it's there. Everything kind of fits into place, and I thought that in and of itself was an enjoyable experience. On top of it already being a good story and a good play and a good retelling of some classic characters.
It was a fantastic retelling. I thoroughly enjoyed that book as well. It's yeah, that's cool. That's real cool. We'll just go down the line here. My favorite book out of 2021, or yeah, 2020. What year is this? Was Promise of Blood.
Oh, interesting.
I loved the Powder Mages. I absolutely loved it. That series is actually a series that I regret not continuing, and it's mainly just because I'm kind of maxed out on my amount of reading I can do right now. So yeah.
Nice book, Alex.
that book was it was completely new to me. I had never ever heard of it, and just so choice.
Yeah, that definitely has a unique fantasy setting, and really gets in the nitty gritty of what magic can be.
Yeah, and it had good world building, and yeah, it was cool. It was real cool. What was yours?
All right, so my favorite was Truly Devious.
Ooh, all right.
The reasoning behind that is kind of twofold. One, I just felt like the story was really captivating. I was interested throughout the entire book. I just had to know more about what was going on. And two, it was my first mystery novel. Okay. And I didn't know I would like mystery novels.
Yeah, that's always a special book. The book that gets you into a new genre.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. I think so why don't we quick jump into this question before we open another set of presents? But what was the book you didn't know you were gonna just absolutely adore? Like I think Alex, you answered yours, right?
Well, I have another one.
Oh, okay.
That I can
Hit us
answer
with
but like oh, you want me to start? I was gonna let somebody else start because I started the last one. But...
I can go. I've got mine loaded up. So now I'm blanking. I totally had it loaded up, but mine was on the tip of my tongue. Adam, go. I'll remember mine.
The Alchemist.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I
remember now.
When I read The Alchemist, right, I took it as this is probably an interesting story from the past.
Yeah.
And walking away from it, I felt like it, it impacted my life, not necessarily just I enjoyed reading it.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Because I took away things from that book that I feel like helped me be a better person.
That's a powerful read.
Yeah,
That is a
holy crap.
powerful
How did that
read.
not? That should just tell everybody like how good the other books are. Like
Yeah.
if a book that changed your life
It isn't in the top.
like isn't even in the top 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I agree. I think The Alchemist was a really good one. Because of how efficient that storyteller was. Right? I
mhm.
can't remember the author's name for Pablo
Paulo Coelho.
Paulo
Yeah.
Coelho. Yeah. He was just a really really efficient writer. Like,
Yeah.
man, that was good business. So I remember mine. It's Stormfront. We just finished it. I couldn't for the some reason I couldn't remember the name of the book, but I didn't realize that I absolutely love noir books. I enjoy to some degree like noir movies, but noir books somehow capture, that noir feel way better, right? Because you can have that internal monologue without being super corny and stuff like that. That was a genre I didn't realize I enjoyed reading, and so that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I'll
All
say
right.
the Stormfront definitely did things for internal dialogue that were far more enjoyable than I normally like for internal dialogue books. So
I was surprised too because I'm not usually a fan of first person storytelling. Um, so that was it was well done. Yeah.
All right. So for me, this is going to be a repeat, kind of a repeat book, but honestly, for me, the big one that hit me in the face that I wasn't expecting to really like was Truly Devious. I am super picky about mystery novels, especially ones that have like a YA tilt to them because they generally don't have any real complexity, and I figure it out reasonably early or when there are the surprise reveals because they were holding back specific information so you can't figure it out.
Hmm.
It still doesn't like surprise me, but this one was like really compelling. I went through and read all the other books afterwards
Hmm.
immediately. I was not expecting that out of a YA novel, and let alone a YA novel that is a genre that I'm generally pretty picky about. Like I absolutely went into reading things like the Agatha, and then there were none by Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
Like she is a master of the craft. I went into that totally fine. Like I know that I'm going to get a good story out of Agatha Christie,
Hmm.
but out of somebody that I'd never read before, that was YA for mystery, I was just like, holy shit, this is like actually like I need to read more of this.
I
And
I really think that the Truly Devious series is kind of her like I don't know her like love letter almost to mystery writers. She really seems to enjoy the genre. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I almost envision the writer being really similar to Stevie.
yeah,
You
it
know?
seemed like she was having fun with writing the
Yeah.
story, and a lot of yeah, and to get that like through the pages is pretty impressive, especially for mystery, which generally has kind
Yeah.
of like a muted or negative tone to it to like feel the excitement. It
Hmm.
was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so into present number 2, which I will introduce because you guys will be opening my present
All
before we
right.
go into our bottom 3 of 2021. So go ahead, boys, open her up.
It's the big box, right?
I would assume so.
I think so.
Oh my gosh,
All right.
it's so huge.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Oh my gosh, I can't get it out.
And cover the labels. Don't dox yourselves.
Oh, I tore them all off.
Oh my gosh! Get out of the bag!
What's in the bag?
Adam is struggle busting with the bag that I totally put his gift in.
See, I
Adam,
came prepared.
answer follow. Yeah.
I got an X-Acto knife with me.
We're the two scouts, and you're the one who's prepared.
All right,
Why? What'd you have? Did you have a cutter?
an X-Acto knife.
Oh, I had a cutter. See, cutter.
Okay. Well, I'm the only Eagle Scout, and the only knife that I currently have is this beast right here.
Oh, that's not a knife.
It's a knife. It actually has a little mini one too. It's a little bitty.
Oh my gosh!
All right.
Totally should have used that to open things.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fragile.
So
Uh-oh.
apparently, great minds think alike.
Oh. Oh, shit, what'd you do? Oh.
So mine is sealed and drinkable.
Ah. Be nice or F off the 800s.
You got it. Oh, no way.
We're gonna be drinking in style, boys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so heavy. I'm gonna have to go get another beer now. It's your fault.
Yeah, it's his fault.
So I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
that you gave. I'm so glad that you gave me this one though, because I got one for like all of us so that we could drink them. But like I don't have one, so like I got this one to represent for the rest of the night.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. Yeah. So
I will,
I'm just glad that yours got there in time because those took forever. The day that we confirmed that we were getting gifts, I sent out for those, and they got to you guys in time. Mine apparently is still being shipped to Uspus.
Oh, man. Auspice. Thank you.
Thanks.
I am not going to
You're
pour my
welcome.
drink in this. Just a heads up, because it needs washing.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of dust in it. But thank you.
You're welcome. I figure like those will probably show up a good amount as we go on with the 800s.
Yeah.
Well, it won't show up much for me, but I'll be using it behind the screens. You know it.
Hey, you sub in every now and again.
That is true. So, let's talk about the bottom three.
Favorite.
Bottom three. All right, who started off top three? I think Adam did, right?
No.
Oh no,
I
you
did.
you did.
Yep. So, I think we should go Adam first.
Okay.
All
Am I
right.
doing third?
Third
Third.
from the
favorite?
worst.
So
Okay.
it'd be your more favorite of the three.
Okay.
Most favorite
Saving
of
worst
the
for
three.
last.
Oh, look at this crap.
Take a look at this crap.
Let me make sure I get this order right here. I'm gonna go with Gods of Jade and Shadow.
That was only number 3 for you?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm almost certain I know what the worst one is for him, but the middle one's gonna throw me off.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I've got a good
explain
guess.
explain yourself, sir.
There was just I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the flow. Yeah, it was a book that I'm sure people love, but those people aren't me.
Oh no.
All right. All right, Alan, why don't you take
All right.
second, and I will do last on this one and first for the second.
I'm kind of worried we're all going to have the same 3 just in different orders. My my number 3 of the bottom 3 is Dawn. I enjoyed the idea, I did not enjoy the execution. I respect it as a sci-fi novel. It just wasn't for me at all. It's not to say it was a terrible book. It just really wasn't for me. So, yeah, Dawn.
All right. So my third least favorite, Dawn almost made that list, but the one that took it for me was Babel 17 because
Really?
unfortunately for me, Dawn was kind of tinged by the fact that I read the follow-up books, which I've made it more compelling for me.
Okay.
So, and I couldn't shake that
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing these rankings. But Babel 17, I had a similar assessment of it where it was an interesting concept, but the story kind of fell flat. The characters weren't particularly memorable. They fit within the story, but in so much as a dude born in West Virginia fits in a coal mine type of deal, like it's just an association. It just fits because it's what you think of, and there's nothing really compelling about it. Um, Again, concept was strong, execution was a bit off for me.
See, that one was lower on my list, but I did enjoy like the world building and I don't know, the ideas around it. It just at the end it felt meh, you know.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
just
and
like,
that's the thing
what the
is like
fuck?
Dawn probably would have taken that spot if I could somehow manage to shake what I read in the follow-up books because the
Sure.
follow-up books for me made it resolved a lot of stuff and I
Well,
couldn't shake it.
and that
If I
kind
had
of
to judge them, they were just fairly similar for me. Like they were
it kind of makes sense though to not put Dawn in the bottom three just because you were compelled enough to read the next books. Like I knew
that's
the
true.
books were out there and I refused to read them. I don't care if it makes it better. I'm not
Well,
interested.
the other thing that got me with Dawn it was similar to another book that I read called Semiosis.
Okay.
And I remember that one being one that took me a little bit to get through, but I was rewarded when I did. So I kind of used that to push me through into the next
Sure.
book, and it was worthwhile for me. Does it get to be spectacular? No. Does it become much better? Yes.
Not gonna lie, it took me a minute to remember what Dawn was. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the
that
really
doesn't say
rapey
a lot
one.
about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I am starting off our round for second to last.
Mm-hmm.
My second to last is unfortunately going to be The Travelers. That one
Really?
felt like it would be better as an anthology rather than like a story that was kind of like I get that you're tripping through time type of
Mm-hmm.
deal, and there were some compelling stories within it. It just felt a little jumbled for
Sure.
me to really get into it. Um, it what saves it from being the last is a strong lead character, is their strong lead character,
Mm-hmm.
but the other ones I just had trouble giving a crap despite how much they took up, how much space they took up
Sure.
in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that one unfortunately landed at second to last for me.
So for me, that one was actually like almost smack dab in the middle. I enjoyed all of the little stories and how like those little stories like intricately like weave together. The cast of characters, like the breadth of characters was rough, but once for me when I realized a person in the background of one story is actually the main character of another story, that's my fucking jam, dude. That is
See,
like
I didn't
when
mind
stories
that. I just
intertwine.
see. I like that concept. I just thought it wasn't well executed, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like it was done, but I've seen that done in other books where it's much more compelling.
sure.
And maybe it wasn't so much that it wasn't done well, but it was like I know the potential for that, and like
Mm-hmm.
you, I very much enjoy that concept. but it fell short in its execution of it. And I think what gets me is probably more my own personal disappointment in the potential of that book
sure. Yeah.
that was unrealized. I
Mhm.
think that's really what got me.
Mhm.
So, Alan, why don't you go ahead and give us your second to bottom?
I did second last time. Adam, you go.
No, we're
Okay.
doing the down and back, just like
Oh,
we did
are
last
we?
time.
Oh,
I can't.
okay.
Hey, hang on. Let me go.
Okay.
All right, fine.
So my second was The Travelers. um,
Do go on.
there was some cool stuff there with like the names are kind of neat. I said that in the stream. There was some cool heritage stuff going on, but gosh, the plot I just could not care less for.
Yeah. Well, there really wasn't much of a plot to it. Like I think that story is really similar stream to like Seinfeld, right? Like
Yeah.
there's just nothing actually going on, and you're just kind of watching people interact with each other. It's like a sitcom of a book. But yeah. I could
It's
I
very
could totally see
episodic
that.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
I'm a big fan of books that build, and this book did not build.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why that flow never really carried out, because like usually when you have these people, like one person from the previous story becomes the center of another story, you use that to build to some sort of climax, and that book just never really does.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit with the main character at the end. She gets that little bit of catharsis when she finally acts true to herself. But it just, considering how climactic that scene's supposed to be, it just fell flat. And again, I think it got there, at least for me, because of the wasted potential. And it seems like that bothered Adam too, is that there was no storyline and there is so much potential for there to be a compelling storyline.
Yeah.
Anyways, now on to you, Alan.
Okay. All right. So I think because Adam hasn't said it yet, I think I stole Adam's top hated one. So my number 2 least favorite was Snowflower and the Secret Fan. Yeah, I knew it. I didn't like that book so much that I didn't finish it. I was never compelled to really finish it. I think the last part I left off on was when she's running in the mountains, and like she stops at a fire, and that's where I ended. And I I like didn't pick it. I didn't like listen to it for some reason for like a day, and I was like, man, that was kind of nice. I'm not going back, and I try not to do that with the books um, in this show, and that one I just couldn't drag myself back to. Um, so yeah, that's my second hated. Well, hated is a strong word. Least favorite.
Second least favorite. Yeah.
See those types of books. I have a feeling that you have to be the type of person who likes that type of book where what you're getting is essentially history from the specific viewpoint of somebody who lived in it. And it's not, and if you're not interested in like the inner workings of the perspective of that person, even if it's not super exciting, which I do, but that's probably my fascination with psychology. This is one of those ones that for me wound up like middle of the road.
Gotcha. I can see that. I like because it really does dive into like Chinese culture during the era, and I think the only thing
and
that
I
really
find that stuff absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And I thought that made it interesting. But if you're not into that, this did not have a storyline strong enough to keep most people going.
Yeah. I think the only thing I resonated with was the typhoid pandemic.
Oh,
and I was like, wow, that's really close to home right now,
Yeah, imagine if we didn't have Uber Eats or whatever.
I know, right? Yeah, like penning yourself up like in the same room with, would she have like 4 or 5 kids or something like that, and damn, you know?
Hmm.
So I felt that, and that was it. That was my level of connection or care, and that was it. So
We'll wait to hear your notes on this one, Adam. Do you want to
yeah,
lead us off
go
for
ahead,
like the
go
last
ahead.
for the worst for your year?
So there was one book on this list that prompted me to do something I have never done before while listening to a book, and that is I thoroughly enjoy the process of going through a book. I don't like to shorten it, um, so I never change the speed of the playback.
Oh,
But this one book, I couldn't take it. About halfway through, I was like, I just want to get through this shit. So I sped it up to 2x speed and finished it out that way. And yeah, that was Snowflower and the Secret Fan.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I respect
Go
that.
away.
I respect that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I mean, I enjoyed the culture parts.
hmm
It did prompt me to Google some stuff about Chinese culture and
Dude,
heritage.
foot binding. I googled the Christ out of foot binding, and like
Yeah.
what it does to the bones and stuff like that. That was cool. Like, I mean, the culture, the practice. I don't know if I agreed with, but the science around what happens, that was really interesting to me.
I don't think you have to mince words about that one.
Yeah.
The practice of it is straight up torture.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cultures that have something torturous that they do
Yeah.
to themselves for the sake of beauty standards, but
Yeah, I don't want to shit on culture, but yeah, I was fascinated by the science of what happens during that process.
Yeah, that
well,
was
I'm not
that
shitting
was
on the
my only
culture.
take.
It's just it's physically super painful
Yeah.
and deforming. And like I said, there's no culture that's completely absolved of that. Like everybody does something. That one's just particularly noticeable. Like you said, the science behind it and how it works is just interesting.
Yeah. So, other than the like culture bits, was there anything that you like enjoyed out of that book, or was it pretty flat the rest of the way?
Nah, for me it was just straight culture, and then
Yeah.
the rest was kind of
Well, there wasn't
ready to get
like
over with.
a build. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was it was literally like looking at a flat prairie and then being like, "Oh, that nice flower. Oh, that's culture. Ooh, another nice flower. That's it. That's all. It's all
What got
cornfield."
me was the personal growth bit at the very end for Snowflower.
Did-
You mean
Like
the
that
bits
for
you
me,
should have
but
done
again,
in
you have
chapter
to be
2?
invested. You have to be invested in everything else that leads up to it. And if you're
Mhm.
not, it's not going to have. It's not even a build so much as it is like I spent a lot of time in that book being like, you're just being a jerk. You're being a jerk, and then
Yeah.
like finally you realized you're a jerk.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like
I
you
think
realize, like I get you were trying to survive, but you finally realized you were a jerk, and like
and now
the
you
culture
regret it
stuff
and you
is
can do
fascinating
nothing.
enough for me to like to drive it upwards towards like the middle-ish, and that one moment is what keeps it from slipping into the bottom half for me.
Okay.
Um, like, but again, this is that type of book where you have to like that kind of story, and if you don't, it's just not going to be compelling to a good chunk of people.
Mhm. Mhm. Did you want to do the least
Oh
favorite?
yeah, I'll do mine. So this one I kind of had to think long and hard about because like all of my bottom three were pretty well close together. I didn't have any like unlike Adam, I didn't have any one standout that was just like you're so much worse. But my worst one, and only because it's the only one that I couldn't necessarily recommend to anybody in particular, was Gods of Jade and Shadow.
Hell yes, dude. That is my least favorite as well.
All right, I'll get into my reasons. You can go ahead for yours after. But so for Gods in Jade and Shadow, that one, it kind of follows a similar vein as my number 3 in that there's so much potential there for something amazing, and it just never happens. But what makes this the worst is it kept not happening.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, here's a road for it. Go for it. And it just doesn't. And it 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 doesn't over and over again. And I'm just like, come on.
It was like
and she wrote herself into a corner, and then you're sitting there like you could have made like 2 or 3 tweaks along the way, taken this. You could still wind up at this point.
Yeah.
And it would be so much more satisfying if you had just taken the road less traveled or whatever the hell. And I was just like, and because I love mythology in general, and Mayan and Aztec, mythology, I find incredibly fascinating because of the inherent similarities in it to the traditional mythologies we think of, i.e. Norse, Egyptian, Greek, Roman,
but yet being like so far
it's being so far away, but it's finding the distinctions, the things that are so uniquely like native to the Americas and their situation that I find fascinating. And it just dips its toe in it, and then it, rather than taking the next step in, runs away. And that to me was just the most frustrating shit. But like
a big thing for me about it was nothing was earned. Nobody did anything.
Yeah, right.
And they succeeded at it because they were good or they learned something new and they applied it. No, it was just
because you gotta.
Everything was completely passive and just happening to the main character.
Yeah.
She was walking through the world, and everything just happened to her.
She wasn't even walking. She was in a cart being pushed.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, she was like being pushed or dragged through like 90% of it. The only thing she does is, again, towards the very end, but because she did nothing to get to the very end, even that final push wasn't there. Like with Snowflower and the Secret Fan, at least that final push was one she had to do on her own.
Yeah.
She had, it took the end of the life of her best friend and secret fan to get her to do it, but it was hers and she earned it, even if it was super rushed. That doesn't happen in Gods of Jade and Shadow at all. Like, she's there. She makes a choice, and the choice is not even like a hard one to make.
No,
it's just
that book was the equivalent
choose ye death of somebody, or choose ye life for everybody.
Yeah. that book was the equivalent of like the reader's version of Blue Balls.
Oh God, that's so apt.
I mean, really, like I think that's what landed it so solidly in my number 1 was, like you said, like she just kept setting it up and never ever knocking it down, and that was super disappointing. And it made me feel like it was, and this is going to be harsh, but I believe that was the worst written book that we read in 2021. And that's why it is my number 1 least favorite. So, I mean, the language was there, but the storytelling was not.
Yeah, and I will say that this one is not the worst book I've ever read by a long shot. I've read some bad ones. I'll not name them off in case somebody decides to recommend them, and then I can, save that for next year when I can shit on that one. But
I'll shit on you later.
But that's extra.
No. Oh no.
So, yeah, that one, I again, I'm just venting my frustration. It's not a terrible, terrible book. It's just, we actually read a lot of high caliber books this year.
We did. Yeah.
Like, it kind of settled at the bottom. Again, I think the biggest thing is my own frustration with it, and it's just not one that I would necessarily recommend, in part because I know books that take a similar-ish concept and do it better.
Yeah. Well, and it was unfortunate because she had something unique, right? Like, at
Yeah,
least
the
unique
setup.
to me. Yep.
So much potential.
Well, and she had a good, like, magic system where, like, you know, a great explanation for why gods are prevalent but not felt, right? Like the gods could only have an effective radius close to where they were born. Great concept. It is a
Yeah.
great way of explaining why God in Israel is so prevalent but yet unfelt in other
Well,
parts of the world
and
and
that their
vice
power
versa. And yeah,
well, and that their power even close to there was dependent on the beliefs of the connection of the people to them
yeah,
in that radius.
yep,
And that radius can expand depending on the connection of the people, and without it, it shrinks. And like that was such a cool concept, and one of the reasons why I was excited for it to keep going. And then it's just like, it's a thing.
yeah, yep,
Done.
and then sets it up and doesn't touch it.
It's like watching the
never
kid
comes
at
into play.
T-ball who's just like, who like you see him swinging the bat and you're like, this kid's gonna knock it out of the park, and then just continuously hits the stand that the T-ball's on.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man. All right. So, Adam, why don't you lead us off into our third section,
Well,
which is
Present.
yeah. I mean, well, all of us introduced our presents. Let Adam do his.
What are you talking about?
Well, we're gonna do honorable mentions after this,
Okay.
and he is saying to
Tell us to open your present.
Yeah, do your job.
Okay,
Tell us what to do.
Open a present from me that you got in the mail.
Damn, don't gotta be so bossy.
Now!
Did we all get signed mugs for each other?
That would be hilarious, but no.
I was a little worried about that with us, like, trying to do this all at the same time without telling each other what it was, because it was like, But I couldn't not, especially when I saw, like, I had that idea in my head as soon as we talked about gifts.
I knew exactly what to get when we talked about gifts as well, and it's funny that both our brains went there.
Hey, we're not alcoholics.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Did he get the same thing?
Oh,
yeah.
So in honor of our first stream.
Oh, so thoughtful. Awesome.
Complete collection of H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, I can't wait to read this racist bastards collection. Oh man, yeah, our first two really, or is the tomb not in here?
Let's see here.
See, the Dunwich Horror, Call of Cthulhu is in there. Shadow of Innsmouth, Color of.
I'm excited to
Color
read
Out of
this.
Space, A Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, in the Case of
the tomb,
Trolls.
page 15. I think it's got 15? most of his writings, if not all of them. I mean, it's got a lot of stories in it.
Oh, okay. I was just reading what was on the cover.
Yeah,
Holy heck.
That's just works included. Look at the contents.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Dude, what a gift, dude.
Nicely done. Thank you, Adam.
This makes my heart sing. Thank you. This is very thoughtful.
Just don't pay attention to the voices in your head.
Oh.
Awesome.
Dude, I'm excited to read these.
I'm glad you guys like it.
Oh,
love it, man. Awesome.
All right. On to honorable mentions.
Nom nom.
Yeah, let's talk about honorable mentions.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I think everybody who started a section started it off, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Go
Okay.
for it, Adam.
Honorable mention. Um. What exactly are you looking for honorable mention?
Honorable mention is like didn't make either of the lists, but certainly deserves to be called out.
Okay. I'm gonna bring up Dune by Frank Herbert.
Okay.
Definitely a front runner in sci-fi. Frank Herbert led the way into what we now know as sci-fi and fantasy. I think he set the stage, and everybody else said, "Cool, I want up there." So
that's fair. Though I didn't enjoy Dune as much as I hoped I would, I can respect that. Absolutely. Yeah. Want me to go next?
I can go second.
All right,
I think,
go for it.
So I know I briefly talked about it, but my near misses for the top 5 were basically tied, and that was Arithmetist and Promise of Blood. Both amazing magic systems, super compelling storylines. I think what got me out of them is there were really good characters, but they weren't as compelling as the characters in my top 3, and they didn't have the as much emotional depth to them, and not even by that much, other than arguably A Monster Calls. That one's emotional depth was insane, but
Yeah.
but it also didn't have like the magic system or other stuff that it were world building. But those two I thought were excellent examples of like fantastic world building and creating a cast of characters that I can care about through multiple books. Both of them I went on to read at least the second book. I kind of dropped the ball on getting into the third one after Promise of Blood, but Arithmetist I've made my way through, and it's, it holds up, which is awesome when a book compels you to read and it actually follows through. I enjoyed the author's writing styles and watching them evolve as they go as well. Are we only doing one side? Because I also have a near miss for the bottom.
We could do that as a follow up after this one.
All right.
I am going to say that The Alchemist is certainly an honorable mention for me. I thoroughly enjoyed that book. I think the guy, Paulo, right? Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
I think he has a command for language. He is capable of writing a super intricate and super detail-oriented story with very little words. And it is not convoluted. It was simple to consume, and was all around a solid book. I think the thing that really kept me from placing it in my top 3, and it was close. I think the thing that kept me from placing it though was I didn't have a connection with the character. I enjoyed the journey that the story went on, but I wasn't like particularly invested in the character. So, yeah, certainly a big shout out, and one is that is one that like wasn't on my radar, and I absolutely was surprised by it. So.
Well, one of the interesting things about Paulo Coelho's works, I know because I've gone on to read quite a few of his, is almost all of them have a theme or a lesson behind them. And the theme behind The Alchemist is wisdom. So it almost becomes more about the journey than the characters themselves, which is interesting that you noted that. and I think that's part of the reason why I didn't end up near my top is I'd already read it before multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been on that journey a few times. So it didn't, I was taking the chance to really connect with new books, and this one, while it's still a very soothing and enjoyable read, is not going to reach into the upper echelons of this year because I've experienced it. And there were a number of books that kind of fell into that category. Like I love reading them, but it's just a different kind of read when you've read it multiple times. That's in the same vein as like Artemis Fowl was another one that almost, like because I've read it as many times as I have, and sorry, hiccups.
It just didn't land.
And Dune was another one for me like that.
Sure.
Like I've read it, I've gotten what I'm going to get out of it, and yeah, I noted a few interesting things that I didn't read before, but it wasn't that falling in love with the story for the first time kind of feeling.
Right.
And there were a couple of them, like the ones in my top were ones that I had read a Monster Calls, but I think I hadn't been paying attention, and like this was the first time I really paid attention to it. And
well, you were, age gives you more perspective.
Well, yeah,
You know
I think
mean?
when I read it when it originally came out, like back when I was a teenager, and it just I wasn't really attempting to connect with the book, and this time I did.
I think your point about the rereading and those books not making it into your top 3 really speaks volumes for what the Blacksmith's Son is for Adam.
Oh yeah. That's I can see why it does that because like it absolutely deserves to be distinctly in my top 3 for that reason. Is like this is one that I feel like I could go back to. And I should note, the ones that didn't make it weren't ones that I had only read once. They were ones I had read several times over, and it's just makes the Blacksmith's Son that much more impressive. That how many times have you read Blacksmith's Son, Adam?
6 or 7 times.
Yeah, and yet still in your top, which says so much about a book. And that might be one of those books down the road that like I wind up reading 100 times over and still loving it. I know that I think most people have at least one book or book series that winds up in that realm. I think probably the most common one of our generation is obviously going to be Harry Potter series. But it's a very special book that has that kind of staying power. And The Alchemist kind of does hold a special place in my heart. I was just
well, you got to make that hard decision.
I wasn't really thinking about that when I made my decision. It's just like it's kind of like the difference between like falling in love, like that feeling when you're falling in love versus that like comfortable, like committed, like eternal love for something. And I was kind of feeling the passion when I was making my list. So,
and that just it doesn't mean that the book that didn't reach your top 3 isn't a favorite book, but it certainly can be outshined for any sorts of reasons. And so that's awesome. Did we want to do honorable or dishonorable mentions?
I kind of do.
All right, so I want to try and frame this. So are we doing like books that we had high hopes for but kind of fell flat?
Well, books that I would say be had nearly made your bottom 3, and if that's your reason for why, then sure. But like you can have any number of reasons why.
Yeah. All right. So kind of like a 4th least favorite or something.
Kind of, but like I think what we're really doing is defining what line we drew for our top 3 and why.
Okay. All right.
And I think that's what makes this different from just a 4th least favorite.
Hit us with yours.
All right. So mine I kind of touched on a little bit for my bottom, and that was
sorry.
I touched my bottom. I think the one that just narrowly missed out for me, I shouldn't have talked about it so much earlier, but was Dawn.
Sure.
And that distinction for me that made it slightly better than Babel 17 was the way it ended. Like, there's a lot of books that we talk about that have a lot of unrealized potential.
Mm-hmm.
What made this different, though, is the unrealized potential was still there at the end. Like, it opened up a door. Like, it's kind of like the I don't know if anybody out there has watched How I Met Your Mother, but it's keeping somebody on the hook. It's like, I can't be with you right now. And that's kind of what this book did. Is the other one's kind of like, all right, I'm done with it. Yeah, there could be more, but there's nothing that tells me that anything's really going to change with this.
Okay.
But Dawn had that little moment at the end where it's just like something compelling kind of peeking through the corner. Like, specifically when it's talking about how it's setting up for there to be a time jump, and that it's going to change settings, it's going to change main characters, and it takes that element that we talked about that went unrealized in Travelers for me and Adam, in that a character from the original series is going to become the main character.
Okay.
And when it set that up, I was just like, potential? Because there's still a strong concept there, and I was just like, if the author learns and they move on to the next thing, there's potential here to be something like that I could really enjoy, and I did. And that was my line draw right there. It was just that little creak at the end, just like just a little light at the end of the tunnel where there might be something good to keep going with.
Okay. I'll take the next one. So mine was Dune. Dune, for me, I really wanted to enjoy it. I enjoyed bits of it, but I had a trouble with the sheer lack of pacing. I think Dune would be an unstoppable book series if it was written now. Like that. Dune itself, the first book, is at least 3 books smashed into one and poorly cut together. I think he needed to take his time and write 3 stories for the readers to really to do the readers the service that was due. Right, there was a lot to tell in early, mid, and late life in the book. Right, so. Anyways.
You mean like what they're doing with the movies now?
Is that, I don't know. I haven't seen the Dune film.
Spoiler alert, it ends with them winding up in the desert. So
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, like it is meant to be split up into parts. So it seems like they're trying to solve that problem in movie format.
By telling, there just needs to be more love and care put into, like, the early life, the midlife, and when he becomes Muad'Dib, right?
I think the early life got personally, I think the early life got the service it needed, and then the rest didn't, because the early life took up as much as it did, and the rest kind of got turned into short stories that got jammed together at the end.
Well, I think the early life could have ended. He could have filled it out to some degree, but I think it really could have ended where it ended, and that could have been the end of that book, and then an expansion of the learning of the way of I can't remember the planet, but like learning that planet and becoming part of the I can't think of the native people. What was the natives called?
I mean, the name of the planet is Dune.
Oh, is it? Okay, well.
I mean, that's the like more colloquial name.
Sure.
the actual name of the planet. Crap. I'm sorry. I'm confusing it with the name Atreides, which I know is
No,
the name of
that's
like
the
the
family.
actual house. Yes, Atreides and Harkonnens,
Hmm.
and
I can't think
oh,
of the name of the
Arrakis.
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 That's the
But
That's why
planet.
that's the
Atreides was
planets.
coming up when I was thinking,
Yeah,
trying to think of Arrakis. But and the name, the Fremen are
the
the
Fremen.
ones in the desert.
I think the
Think the
exploring.
Freemen just without
Yeah,
instead
that
of
makes sense. So I think the exploring of Arrakis, the integration into the Fremen society, and could have been certainly expanded on, and it would have been exceptionally compelling without doing any like filler work. I think there was a lot of stuff that needed to be filled out. So yeah.
So what then? Like, I guess I'm trying to get at like what specifically made the distinction between that book and what wound up being your third least.
I think it was um let's see, my third lease was Dawn, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the difference is that Dune was enjoyable. Like I could so like the difference for me, if I put it in like meal terms, would be like going to fast food would be like Dune, where it was like that was good, but like not great. And then
Might regret it later.
yeah, might regret it later depending on where I've stopped. And Dawn was really like, did you burn this? Because this tastes burned. This,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like that's the difference. I would say and in between there, like there's other books that we read that I would place like in between there.
Okay.
But I certainly was super excited for Dune, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be for how much people seem to enjoy it. So I think I bought you enough time, Adam.
So did you have any near misses
uh,
out? It's okay if you really didn't, but like I'm
no, I
just
did.
kind of curious what your process was for like your cutoff point for your bottom three.
So for me, Babel 17 was down there. Honestly, I think Babel 17 would have made a great second book in a series.
Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
I
think.
feel like
Go ahead.
I feel like a lot of the setting would have been better off if it was fleshed out more. The
Hmm.
concept behind the Babel 17 idea would have benefited from some prior experience in novel form. And I think like our main character had a lot of stuff that was like there were stories that defined them from the past,
Oh,
and I
sure.
think it would have been good to have one of those stories before this story.
I would agree there. I think Babel 17 was another book that is unfortunately written in the past because I think with the aid of a recent like I don't want to say new age, but like a more current editor, it would have been just absolutely fire. Like that book really needed just a good editor.
Yeah, I would like as you know that made my bottom three, and it wasn't like by a lot. But now that you mentioned that, Adam, that it would have done better as a sequel, I have to 100% agree. Is there's a lot of context missing for that, and without that context, it doesn't really compel you to read more because you're still confused at what just happened. You're just like, it is what it is. It's almost the exact opposite issue that Dune had. There's all this exposition at the beginning, but you don't get to explore it enough
Hmm.
Yeah.
and give it time to like really age into what it could be. And this is just like, uh, like I feel like if we're gonna use like I can use an alcohol analogy. It's the difference between pulling like a like a fine wine out a little bit too early and
Mhm.
making a blend that just isn't very good. Like, yeah, the components of it could be great, but you're just kind of got it all together in one, and it when you don't have context for what you're tasting, it just is confusing or leaves you a little disappointed.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Dune was one of those ones where like, holy crap, there's all this potential that's made with these amazing grapes and blah blah blah, and then all like it just needed to be aged. Just give it a little breath, you know, leave it in there for a little while.
Mhm.
Uh, so, is there any one thing I would like to know, if you guys don't mind sharing? Were there any characters specifically that highly stood out to you? Any like whether that is positively or negatively? If there's any that like just
Mm.
first thing comes to your head, were there any that popped out to you that you either really enjoyed or just hated even?
Hmm.
All right,
None
let's
none that was like a knee jerk. So like nothing where like if we're doing a Rorschach about it, nothing where I'm just like, oh yeah, but if I was hard pressed to come up with something, I
just
would
give you
I would
there.
say that, man, what it what was a really shallow character for everybody. I mean, that's what I'm trying to think of is
Well, I
like,
mean, what I'm looking at is not necessarily shallow. It could be an in-depth character
sure,
or a
yeah,
character
or
that you
vice
just
versa.
loved to hate. You know,
Ooh,
it could be love to hate, or it could be something that someone that like really stuck out to you. Like, would it help if I gave an example
yeah,
of
go
like
for
what
it.
I'm thinking? Okay, so one character that I thought was really fun to read was Alexander from Lore. She was such a fun character to like watch her go through living this literal hero's journey, and she had all sorts of flaws, but she had this amazing strength, and she was a fun character to read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one where it while I haven't read the story before, I know Greek mythology, and it didn't wind up in my top. It was still a great story. It didn't wind up in my top because like I love Greek mythology, but I've had a lot of it in my life, and I wasn't feeling that particular itch at the time, but she was a fun character to read, and I was not expecting that, especially again out of a YA novel. Like usually I like YA when I do like a YA novel, it's because I enjoyed like the world that they built, and like sometimes they have cool magic systems, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically care as much about the characters or the drama that they get themselves into. But her she was just the right amount of no bullshit, but I also have my bullshit without turning it into just like just a teen soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and she was a strong character, which was fun to read. So like that, I think that one stood out to me because I was surprised by her.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I still can't think of one. I don't want
It's
to
okay if
cop
you don't
out
have
though.
one. No, I mean it's okay if you can't. I realize I'm springing this on you. Like this wasn't a part of our prep work. you know, it's just one of those things that popped up like when I was trying to decide like my top was so hard because we have so many really good books near the top
Yeah.
that are like pretty close to each other that I had to like start making very specific distinctions, and Lore was tough to leave out because I really enjoyed her character. It's just I didn't
Mm-hmm.
care, and the other characters weren't actively bad or forgettable necessarily like they were in other books. It just there wasn't quite enough to carry it forward into the top for me. But at the same time, I just really loved reading, you know, the main character for Lore. So
I am going to go with um a character that I really really disliked.
All right.
Um, I really disliked and I know it seems like a cop out, but once you started talking about like characters that you love to hate, I really disliked the the main bad guy in lore. I can't
All right.
I can't think of the god that he took.
I
The
think
god
it
of
was
war,
Aries.
Ares. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did not like that guy, and I thought he was a complete jackass, and I think that he was a great bad guy character. Um,
All right.
I don't think he was a bad guy in the sense of like he wasn't he wasn't a villain. Well, he was a villain. So like my favorite bad guy of all time is the Kingpin in the Daredevil Netflix series.
Mm-hmm.
Best bad guy in my opinion, because he has a point, and you're like, damn, you are trying to do good in this world, but you are doing it in a bad way,
Very
and
fucked up.
yeah,
Right?
and like you really love this city and you're trying to turn it around, but you're you're doing it real bad, man. And and so like that's my standard, and I would say like this guy is certainly not to that standard, but every time I'd read the character, I'm like, oh fuck. Like oh you're making me pissed off now. You're gonna get me pissed off. And a lot of it was just around like his because he was the god of war. He didn't have a lot of like belief in the sanctity of life, the cost of life, so whatever. He had disregard for life, and that's what I didn't like about him.
Adam, anyone for you that stood out one way or the other?
Nobody that I haven't already shat on.
Hey, it doesn't have to be bad. It could be somebody good that stood out.
Um,
Or even a character that, like, I know you've read a lot of these books beforehand, like a character that you just were reaffirmed how much you like them.
Ooh, that's a good one. Artemis Fowl for me. Dibs.
Let's give Adam a chance to
Yeah.
talk
Okay.
back
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I like Mordecai from the Blacksmith's Son. He's to me he's very realistic. He loses his temper. He makes mistakes a lot, and he learns from them and becomes a better person.
That's solid.
You know what? My other one, the one I didn't quite say, but like the other like one that I actually was surprised at how much I liked was actually Dorian from Blacksmith's Son. Because like
Mhm.
usually I get very bored with those White Knight types, and but like his was just like it was sincere but just flawed enough for me to like really get into the character. Because usually the White Knight is just one of two things: either they are a goody two shoes and like they're just built to be like I'm great and good at everything, but I'm not quite going to be the main character because like I'm just like this art, I'm just this pedestal that this person is chasing the whole way, or they're the ones that are like shock and surprise, they're the
Yeah.
total asshole, and like and he's neither. He's very sincere, he
Genuine.
has his limitations, but he's surprisingly like for like all these characters, he's probably arguably I think one of the most self-aware characters that we read.
Mm-hmm.
And like in a very healthy way, which you really don't see a lot in books, because usually when characters are self-aware it's like I know I'm an asshole. But like,
Yeah, there's
like
go ahead.
so I just that was another one that I really liked, and I thought one of the things that made him like a surprisingly good character is I thought he was a good he was one of the best foils to the main character that we saw that wasn't a villain or an antagonist.
Mm-hmm. I liked his relationship with was it a countess? The
Yeah.
yeah,
Rose.
Rose, yeah.
Yeah.
They were a great like power couple. Like like
Right.
they were that was a really enjoyable read to see how they like kind of come together and pull Mordecai out of his bullshit. And what's the love interest in that book? Um,
Mordecai's love interest,
yeah,
Penelope, Penny.
Penelope. Yeah, pull her out of her bullshit, and
Yep.
they just that pair was just a really good, like really realistic, in my opinion, like couple.
Mhm.
Are
Yeah.
you fake drinking out of that?
What I call that in real life. This is delectable air.
Glug, glug, glug.
To say something in Dorian's favor, character-wise, that doesn't happen in Blacksmith's Son, so I'll be kind of vague about this, but there is a moment in one of the following books where Dorian gets mad about something that Mordecai does. And his line is something like, I need you to stay away from me because I'm super pissed off at you. I'll get over it, but right now I kind of hate you. So go away.
And that's
That
so in
reaffirms
line
him.
with his character,
Mhm.
but like how often do you really see or hear that in fiction nowadays? It's so
Right.
rare, and like I think that's one of the things that I'm glad that continues. And Blacksmith's Son was one where I wanted to dive into it, but at the time I was pretty busy, and it's one that I want to be able to like really dedicate myself to reading. And honestly, if I kept reading, especially based on what Adam just said and my inability to separate the books from their sequels completely, I probably would have bumped it up higher. But like, it was already pretty high for me to begin with. So, I know that we didn't none of us technically got to it because I don't think any of us did anything more than read a synopsis. But I'll be interested to see as we go forward. Like, I'm glad we had this conversation. Interested to see how Damon fits into this as we go forward, especially
Oh,
because apparently it's supposed to be basically part of a two-part book.
It is.
Like,
It is.
so.
I
Freedom to
I
him.
can still, in my opinion, Demon falls outside of my top 3, but it's certainly in good standing. So even
All
though
right.
even though
Top
we
half.
haven't officially finished that one, um, that one I already know that book and love that book, and I think that is one of those books for me that was for like you, Alex, where like I've read that book a bunch and I love that book, but it is not in my top 3, and that's okay.
Yep. And I think we've all learned from this process just how subtle the differences can be
Oh
in
yeah.
both like how many times you've read it and when you're reading it and that itch you have when you're reading it,
Hmm.
if it fits it or not. And yeah, some books come down to like technical failures, but like when you get to like a certain level of book, it's more about the individual, which the reason why I say that is I hope this compels our many, many viewers to, get outside their comfort zone, read
Yeah.
something that maybe doesn't have 5 stars or 4.5 stars or whatever, because you might be the person that book's meant to speak to.
Right. Well, and I think too that like how much we've read this year really, at least for me, has like given me more depth to settle my like favorite books from the past, and say, like these are still my favorite because I love these books. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm stacking them up against other books, there's certainly better books, but that just because they're better books doesn't mean they're my favorite book, right? There's a weird distinction there, and it, I don't know, it makes a ton of sense. That's like, I love Chinese food, but like, I'm sure if I went to like a nice Michelin star restaurant, I'd love that food, but it's not my favorite food. Maybe not, you know. The
Well,
technicality
favorites.
of the food can be so much better, but that doesn't mean that like going to my local Chinese buffet isn't my favorite food. You know, that'd be the food that I
Yep.
want all the time.
So, any closing notes or questions, Adam?
Yes, 42, and maybe, but only if I'm in the mood.
Well, why don't we close this out here then? And yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody have any specific closing notes? Otherwise, I think we can probably just.
We got Daemon coming up. You probably are watching this after that, but if you're not, don't forget Daemon on December 18th.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to do Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe on January 15th, 2022.
Yep. And after Sufficiently Advanced Magic, we'll be doing our Classics Week. I do believe we have our vote out right now. If you're seeing this, it will be one of the following 3 books. Go to our website, dmstable.com, or check us out on Twitter at dmstable, or hit us up on Discord if you're on there, to find out which of the 3 books it will be. Those 3 books are yeah, thank you, Adam. I need to get my background changed before I do this announcement. Oh yeah. That Christmas. So the 3 books being War of the Worlds. I believe we went with the Iliad. No, it was the Odyssey.
I don't know. I haven't written it yet.
All right, let's go with the Odyssey. I believe that one was slightly shorter, and the Invisible Man. So choose between those 3. You will, if you're a patron, you will absolutely have a chance to vote on that before this gets released on Christmas. Otherwise, head to our sites to figure out what we'll be reading next after Sufficiently Advanced Magic.
Yeah. Also, if you want to join in the conversation, go ahead and put in down in the chat or wherever you're consuming this. Just let us know what your 3 favorite books were, whether they were books that we read on the show or just in general that you read in 2021. Go ahead and put out your least favorites as well. We want to know that information. We want to know if there's books out there that you'd highly recommend, or even highly anticipated books that are coming in 2022 that we might be able to read for the show. So let us know. Go ahead and hit us up, like Alex said, on our socials. Twitter at DMStable and Facebook at the DMStable, and please help support the show if you can through Patreon. That is the only way we get to keep running our website and keep bringing you fantastic content like this. So, thank you.
Yep, and our Patreon is patreon.com/DMsTable. Seriously, thank you, everybody. This has been awesome. And if you really want to join the conversation, like really join the conversation, hit us up on one of our socials for our Discord server. It's a good time. Again, that's the community we're trying to build under the motto, be nice or fuck off. And, seriously, thank you. This has been an amazing experience. This is to our viewers, to Alan for making everything happen, for hosting and making sure that even when the computer and the internet shits the bed, that we can still have a great time. And also thank you, Adam, for being there with me week in, week out, and making sure that I don't completely tank this. Smacking me back into reality every now and again, and keep honestly, you keep the show running smooth. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you guys for keeping me going with new books and broadening my horizons, and joining me on the 800s and looking at things ways I never would have. So.
Yeah, it's been nice to consume books where you're not just consuming to veg out on a book. You got to consume it enough to be able to talk about it, and that's nice actually. So, yeah. Well, thank you all again, and happy holidays from the DM's table. We hope that you have a really great 2022, and we'll see you out on the internet, guys.
Yeah, thanks
Bye.
everybody. Happy holidays, and see you next book.
Thanks. Bye.